have retroactive legislation. You cannot change legislation willy-nilly at the drop of a hat. It has to be the result of measured and careful deliberation. A number of laws introduced in Hungary, including numerous constitutional changes, were introduced in a manner which was totally devoid of scrutinization. One of the favorite mechanisms of the Orbán government is to introduce legislation in the House of Commons as a single member's bill. That means that you don't have to put it to committee. That means that you don't have to put it on the government website. That means you don't have to have any kind of discussion. That means that you just have a vote in the House of Commons, Hungary's parliament, and it passes. 7 constitutional changes were passed as single member bills in Hungary. Absolutely unheard of in a democratic setting. Not only that, but a number of laws were passed which are retroactive. Things that were legal 5 years ago were made illegal. Okay, so that's one problem. The other problem is scrutinization. Ever since the late 18th century, early 19th century, it has become abundantly clear that in a political system where parliament is supreme, where the decision makers, the parliamentary decision makers who are put into power through the ballot box have unilateral rights to make laws. And this is the British system. The American system and all of the European systems are different from this because there you have the courts that are the ultimate, the last word on what is the law and what is not. And parliaments sometimes are overruled. In the United States, the legislature sometimes overrules, so on and so forth. In the British system, it's the parliamentarians that are supreme, and no court has ever overturned anything in Britain, okay, that was passed by the parliament. In a situation such as that, public scrutiny is absolutely essential. There's a constitutional theorist called Dicey, who wrote in the 19th century, who lays this out perfectly clear, that if you're going to have parliament acting supremely, you must have extremely tight scrutinization opportunities over the law. Scrutinization opportunities by civil society, by the media, by pressure groups, by interest groups, by all kinds of people, as well as parliamentarians in the House of Commons. There has to be debate, and things cannot be done casually. Well, Hungary, forget it. There's no scrutinization. Civil society is totally under the thumb of the political elite. Whenever some civil society groups speak up in Hungary, they are immediately, as in the past year, challenged by the current establishment, considered to be agents of foreign powers, all kinds of nonsense. I ran a civil society in Hungary. I ran a foundation which was committed to the promotion of peaceful dialogue between the peoples on both sides of Hungary's borders. Hungary has 7 neighbors, and as you know, World War I started in Eastern Europe as a consequence of the Versailles Treaty. A lot of Hungarians ended up in different parts of the neighborhood, if I can say that. So I started up a foundation to promote peaceful dialogue between these people, to make sure that we no longer go at each other's throats, but work together for the common benefit of everybody. That Serbs, Slovaks, Croats, Hungarians, Romanians come to understand each other and don't look at each other as enemies, as people filled with hatred. Well, I started this foundation, and it so happened that I wrote an article in a newspaper critical of the current, not government at that time, they were not in power, but the current political party, as a consequence of which every one of the border municipal governments were instructed by the party leadership to stop any kind of cooperation with me, with my foundation, regardless of how noble the objective was. Didn't matter.
Excuse me.
I was totally...
Sorry, we're just reserving the questions.
Can we just wait? I'll answer your question, okay? I just want to run through, because otherwise I'm going to lose my train of thought, and there's nothing worse than that when I lose my train of thought, and you wouldn't like it. So this is the second thing, the attack on civil society. You see it all the time in Hungary. A third one, the independence of the judiciary or the recognition of checks and balances. If you're going to be a human rights activist, you need to know on whose behalf you're fighting. Who are the people? What is your audience? Who are you trying to help? And you need to understand the world of the people on whose behalf you're fighting. Human rights activists, I can generalize, fight on behalf of the people who are told to go to the back of the bus. That's what human rights, those are the people that human rights activists speak for and fight for. The Rosa Parks, who have been told to keep their mouths shut and move to the back. Whereas the American Constitution guarantees equality, but never enforced it. Human rights activists work on behalf of people who are being exploited, who are not allowed to be heard, whose voices are silenced. Our job is to give voice to those people who are unable to exercise their voice for whatever reason, either because they're afraid, or because they're unable to, or because they have no access. It's our job to speak up for them. So know your audience, it's very important, people you fight for. Second rule, you got to put your own house in order before you try to put other people's house in order as an individual. You need to reflect upon yourself, who you are, what kind of a person you are. In order to like other people, you've got to like yourself. You have to become comfortable within your own skin about who you are. You got to make sure that you live and follow the path of righteousness. Sorry, this sounds a little bit, high, but it's important that you do that you follow the path of righteousness as an individual, because then you can follow the path of righteousness on behalf of other people. So you got to put your own house in order before you try to put other people's house in order. The third point is that you've got to speak and seek the truth. It's vitally important. Seek and speak the truth. You've got to, if you're a human rights activist, you've got to make double certain that you check your facts, double, triple, quadruple. If you're confronted with facts that collide with yours, make sure that you adjust. Truth is a fundamental demand, requisite. The Speaker of the Hungarian Parliament, Mr. László Kövér, with whom I have, total disagreement, and he's the person that ordered all the municipalities to choke my foundation. Mr. László Kövér